Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 1-0 podcast presented by Penn State Student Affairs. You might have noticed that we are not Seth Engel and Zach Allen. They're on the road currently to Evanston, Illinois for Penn State's matchup against Northwestern. So joining me today will be Sam Woloson. I'm Joel Haas. We'll be talking a little bit about the upcoming matchup for Penn State. So Sam, what's the scouting report on the Wildcats?
Yeah, so Northwestern's a team that's really reeling from this big scandal with Pat Fitzgerald, their former head coach, and it kind of looked like that through the first 3 weeks. Their only win was against UTEP, which is obviously a Group of 5 school, not very good, and it was a close win too. But last weekend, they got a huge win against Minnesota. They were down 21 points in the fourth quarter. They came all the way back and won in overtime. And so, Joel, I'm curious, if you're Penn State, would you be threatened by a Northwestern team that's coming in with a lot of momentum and hosting the Nittany Lions?
No. For two reasons. And the first reason is that I don't think Minnesota is that good. I don't think a win over Minnesota is very impressive. And looking back at that game, it's probably a game Minnesota should have won and just gave away. So I don't even think Northwestern was the better team in that contest. And the second reason you mentioned, Ryan Field, I frankly don't think that that'll be a factor. We heard James Franklin's comments after practice this week where he said it would be, I think, like a unique environment and it would be challenging in its own way or something like that, which was his way of saying that it's going to be empty and it's going to be quiet. He said they practiced without music this week, which I think is pretty funny. The players were telling him to turn it up and he was refusing to do that because he wanted them to get ready for the library that is Ryan Field. So I don't think it'll be a challenging environment. I think what might be challenging is that it'll be an 11 a.m. local kick, so it might be a little bit of a slow start. But no, I don't think it'll be a challenge.
Now, in Northwestern's defense, though, their quarterback Ben Bryant played really well against Minnesota. He threw for over 400 yards, and he's a four-time transfer, so he's got some type of experience going into the game. James Franklin called him the best pure passer that Penn State has faced at this point. We know Penn State's defense is really good, but is there anything to be afraid of with Ben Bryant?
I think Ben Bryant is a good quarterback, and you could argue that he's the best quarterback Penn State's faced this year, but I also worry about Northwestern's offensive line. I think he'll be under duress, especially against Penn State's defensive line, which is one of the strengths of the team. He definitely did have a great game against Minnesota, like you mentioned, all the numbers he put up. But you look at the other games that he's played this year, I think they put up 7 points against Rutgers, 14 points against Duke, and they only had 10 against Minnesota until the fourth quarter. So he did get really hot in that fourth quarter, but I don't know if he can replicate that for a full game, especially against a very good defense in Penn State.
Right, and Bryant is not going to have a lot of help because Northwestern's defense has been one of the worst in the Power 5 and one of the worst in the country. They are allowing 33 points per game. Against Power 5 opponents, they have allowed the fifth most passing yards in the nation, and they're the 112th team against the run. So you would imagine Ben Bryant and that offense would have to be pretty much perfect because I don't think they're going to stop Penn State. And now a word from Penn State Student Affairs.
Trying to figure out housing options for next year? Visit the Housing Fair on October 1st from 10 to 2 p.m. in the Hub to discover all of your options for finding your home at Penn State. Student Affairs is here to help with housing classifieds and guidance in deciding what option is best for you. Campus, off campus, or with your fraternity or sorority. Whatever you decide, know what you're getting into. Student Legal Services offers free lease reviews and can help with any landlord disputes. No matter where you call home next year, Student Affairs is here to help you make the most of your time at Penn State.
Joel, what do you think has gone right for Penn State so far in this 4-0 start?
They're 4-0, so obviously a lot has gone right. I think the defense is the biggest thing right now. They're leading the country in a lot of metrics. I think they're allowing the fewest yards per game of any team in college football, which is pretty insane. It's just a testament to the work that Manny Diaz has been able to do in such a short time here in Happy Valley. I know you wrote a great piece about that everyone can check out on the website. But he's just really been getting creative back there, doing some really fun things. We've seen 3 defensive ends on the field. We've seen a lot of corner and safety blitzes. We've seen a lot of really unique packages. So I think the defense right now is just firing on all cylinders in every phase of the game. They've just been dominant so far. And we've heard a lot of talk from both the coaches and players that they still think there's more. Like, there's more in the tank. They still have more tricks up their sleeve. So that's a really scary thought if you're anyone on Penn State's schedule right now.
Right. Penn State's defenders are excited each week for the things that normally are not exciting, right? They go to film review, they go to learn all the new plays and stuff like that. That's normally not exciting for players, but for Penn State's players it is, because Manny Diaz has been cooking up new stuff each and every week. It's keeping opposing teams on their toes, and it's keeping Penn State's players locked in. And we've really seen that come to fruition with the turnovers. Penn State has forced the second most turnovers in the nation, and their offense hasn't turned the ball over once. They're the only team in the nation that hasn't turned it over once. So as far as the turnover margin goes, Penn State couldn't be much better.
Yeah, I mean, we got a quote about Diaz doesn't just want to stop the offense. Like, he wants them to make a play. He wants them to get the ball. Like, he wants the defense to get touchdowns. Like, he's not just in it to stop the opposing team. He wants to, put up stats. He wants to highlight, Sports Center top 10 plays. Like, he wants the defense to be flying around. Everything like that. And I think it's really had an impact. I think we've definitely been able to see, there's a stark contrast compared to what the defense was under Brent Pry, obviously a very conservative play style. It's been a lot different, but I think it's been very successful, and it's been working pretty much to perfection so far. That's been going great for Penn State, obviously. Is there anything that you think you would want to see more improvement on from Penn State?
Yeah, one of the big things we've been talking about all week and really all season has been the lack of explosive plays for this offense. Penn State's two-star running backs, Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, they only have a combined longest run of 19 yards, which is obviously not very much. We know they're very talented running backs, but Penn State just hasn't been able to get the big play this season. I think against Northwestern, that definitely could change. We've talked about how the Wildcats' defense is porous, to say the least. I think there could be some real opportunities for the running backs and for the offense as a whole.
Yeah, I think going from Iowa's defense to now Northwestern's defense 1 week later, the difference is going to be noticeable. I think the offense is going to realize, hey, we can push these guys around. We can get what we want off of this defense. And I think it's a really good opportunity for them to get those explosive plays that we haven't been able to see so far this season.
And I think the other thing that Penn State hasn't done great has been starting fast. Against West Virginia, against Illinois, and against Iowa, all three of those games were pretty close at halftime before Penn State, eventually pulled away. But it's just a concern for me because I don't think you can get away with a slow start like that once you start playing some of those better teams in the Big Ten. We've seen an offense that's been a little sluggish getting out the gates, feeling out their opponent maybe. But we haven't seen the same urgency from the offense at the start of the game versus at the end of the game. I don't know if you have any take on that.
No, you're definitely right about that. They've definitely been slow out of the gate. And I think that's actually where the defense and the turnovers come into play because they've just been getting the ball back, immediately. The defense is forcing 3-and-outs, and the offense is right back on the field, getting another chance at it so they can really, get their feet under them and get settled into the game. And then the turnovers, again, they're just getting, so many possessions for that offense to really try and break through, try and figure things out. And that's going to become a problem later on in the season because you can't expect to get 4 interceptions off of, Michigan or Ohio State. You can't expect the offense to be getting 45 minutes of possession. So you're going to need the offense to come out stronger and not rely so much on the defense and the turnovers to help them out.
Right, and we saw Penn State be so dominant against Iowa as far as time of possession, and just the defensive statistics were ridiculous in that game. I think for Northwestern, it's going to be similar. I don't think it'll be as bad statistically, but I still expect the Nittany Lions to roll. I have them winning 48-7, which is a pretty big scoreline, and the reason I think that is because Northwestern's defense is just not good. We've talked about it all day, and I think this is the day. If Penn State's going to break out and be an explosive offense, they need to do it against Northwestern. Because if they can't do it against Northwestern, I don't know if they ever will do it. But that being said, I don't think that would be a problem against the Wildcats anyway. I still think they're going to roll. I don't think Northwestern can keep up with Penn State, even if they're not explosive. I can't see it being a close game this time.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think I have 41-10. So we both have them winning and covering once again, which they've done all season long. But like you said, this is a really, really great opportunity for them to try and, iron out those wrinkles, try and fix anything that's been going wrong for them so far. Almost like a tune-up game. This is similar to this game almost reminds me of when, an SEC team is going to play Wofford in like week 9 as like a tune-up game. This gives those same vibes for Penn State. This is kind of that chance to get right, sort of that last chance before you really get into it. I mean, they've also got the bye week in UMass after this, and then after that, it gets really tough down the stretch. So you definitely want to use this opportunity to try and establish yourself, try and hit some of those big plays and iron out those kinks. This has been the 1-0 podcast brought to you by Penn State Student Affairs. Thank you guys for watching. That's Sam Woloson.
That's the real Joel Haas signing off.